Our first public hearing is the Fenton District Development Agreement. Deputy Town Manager Russ Overton will present the item and council may take action. Mr. Overton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be with you again tonight to talk to you about the Fenton Mixed-Use Development Project. In all, I believe this is actually my 6th time in front of you talking about this project. And tonight, I'm specifically here to give you an overview of the Fenton District Development Agreement prior to opening the required public hearing. This project, Fenton, is all about turning the community's vision and your plan for the Eastern Cary Gateway into reality. We are very appreciative of the state, and specifically the State Property Office, for their decision to sell off 92 acres in the Gateway. To highlight just how special this project is, I'd like to take a moment and put it into context with some other development around town. And you've probably seen this slide before. The office space in Fenton is equivalent to about 5 MetLife office buildings. The retail space is just shy of 2 Waverly Places. And the number of dwelling units is similar to the number in all of Silverton or the Oxford Hunt planned unit development. It will be one of the largest developments in Cary, if not the largest development in Cary that we've ever had. Let's take a quick look back over the 3+ years to see the journey we've all been a part of to get to tonight's development agreement ordinance adoption. It all started in 2015 when Columbia Development met with staff to discuss a potential development of the site. And you can see on the picture, it's quite different than what we've ended up with today. Discussions really picked up after that, after the adoption of the Eastern Cary Gateway, and ultimately, the entire Imagine Cary Community Plan was adopted in early 2017, and then during the rest of 2017, the real hard work started on the rezoning process. It started with a site visit to Atlanta, which brought the project to life for many of us, then public hearings, a work session, where you will recall we brought in David Owens from the UNC School of Government, where we initially began our discussions about development agreements. And final approval of the rezoning took place back in January. Zoning approval wasn't the end because one of Columbia's more than 100 zoning conditions proposed regarding their interest in entering into a development agreement for this site. So their condition as part of that rezoning stated that this development cannot proceed without a development agreement approved by the town of Cary, which is why we are here. We were ambitious. We thought that we might be back to you in March or April, right after the zoning approval, but it took nearly 9 months of collaboration between our staff and Columbia's team on the details of this 80+ page agreement to ensure that what we believe will happen on this project actually will. So let me tell you about the development agreement, and in particular why we have one. State statutes allow them for large-scale and complex projects occurring in multiple phases, extending over multiple periods of years, requiring a long-term commitment by both private and public funds. The Fenton project fits within this description perfectly. When complete, Fenton will have up to 1.2 million square feet of office, 570,000 square feet of retail space, 920 residential units, and up to 450 hotel rooms. Based on an economic impact study by Columbia Development, the Fenton District may generate as much as around $800 million in total investment in Cary. It may generate over 6,000 jobs with an economic output in excess of $2 billion. 3 key characteristics of this development agreement are: first, we focus primarily on public infrastructure, specifically the necessary public infrastructure like streets and utilities needed for the long-term success in the entire Gateway area. Public infrastructure that we believe is critical in unlocking the area's potential. Second, this agreement ensures that Fenton will reduce the amount of energy consumed by their new development. Third and lastly, and something that was very important to us, is the relationship we've developed with Columbia Development over the last 3+ years as the master developer of this project. The public infrastructure portion of this agreement focuses on the southern segment of Trinity Road, Quinard Drive, and Carytown Boulevard widening, as well as bike, ped, signals, turning lanes, stormwater, and other associated infrastructure improvements. It also includes the Iron Gate Greenway on the property, as well as public utilities. In all, totaling roughly $22.5 million for these public improvements that will be constructed by Columbia Development per the terms of this agreement. Upon completion of the public infrastructure, Columbia Development will be reimbursed as development construction benchmarks are reached. Development doesn't happen at once and cannot occur until all public infrastructure is complete. I should say reimbursement cannot occur until all the development is complete and opened for use. Also, all buildings in phase areas A and B, which includes the Main Street feature, must be constructed before any final payments are made. And lastly, this is a maximum amount not to exceed. There's also an energy plan offered by the developer, and it's another key aspect of this agreement. As an interesting fact on how this incentive is, how we're able to offer this incentive, is because it is the result, actually, of a 2008 local bill that we asked for through the General Assembly. That local bill has since become state law for the entire state. And this is the first time that we've taken advantage of it and had a development of the size and scale to make a significant contribution to the reduction of energy. The developer has offered to designate a score of 75 or greater in the EPA's Energy Star program for their office portion of development. This means that their buildings are intended to be in the top 25% in energy consumption of all buildings nationwide. They've also committed to items like LED lighting on site, electrical vehicle parking stations, hybrid vehicle parking spaces, as well as energy efficient kitchen equipment in all residential units, and energy efficient windows and mechanical systems. It's important to point out that this is a higher level of regulation than can be required by our zoning authority or our building code compliance. In total, the town proposes to credit up to $5.5 million in development fees for phase areas A and B. This amount is calculated based on the estimates of fees, development, permits, inspections fees for phases A and B, and in phase A and B only. And the credit only applies to phases A and B, while the energy plan applies to all other phases of the development. Another notable provision of this development agreement is the limits of assignment. What this really means is that the Columbia Development cannot leave until significant construction of phase A and B has occurred, and only with council's approval. The term of the agreement is 25 years and requires annual reviews. There are thresholds for new traffic studies should more development be contemplated, and vesting of development rights to current town regulations are also in there. In all, there are about 80 plus pages of detailed terms and conditions. So in summary, it's clear to see how this truly is a community-defining project. And while it's in our Eastern Cary Gateway, Fenton is a project that will transcend that area and benefit all of Cary and be a real gem in the entire region. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you to open it up for tonight's public hearing. And after you close the hearing, I'll be back with a few closing remarks and be available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Overton. Now's the time for the public hearing on the Fenton District Development Agreement, and I would invite our first speaker forward.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. It's good to be back before you. My name is Russell Killen. With Parker Poe. We're the attorney for Columbia Develop. My address is 301 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm really happy to be back. It's been a while. I have very little substantive to add to the presentation. Staff has done a good job as always. Russ has given you a lot of good information. But I mentioned to the Mayor, I did want to get up here and at least publicly thank you and especially thank the staff for this process. This has been a long road. We have spent a lot of time here in Cary. We have been through a lot of negotiations, but you, and I've sat in your table, you should be very proud of how your staff conducted themselves through this. They were professional. They were persistent. This was not always an easy process, but time and time again, we came back to that shared vision of what we've talked about and what we want with this development that we know is Fenton, and we were always able to work through it and find something that would push this region forward. So I just wanted to come up here tonight, thank you for your time and your investment, to thank the staff for their time and their investment, especially the attorney's office. Again, we spent a lot of time going through this. This 80-page document has been through a lot of iterations, and so it's been a good process. Columbia Development could not be happier to be in this position, ready to get started. I have with me tonight Abbott Goodwin, who needs no introduction, Jenkins Williamson with Columbia Development. We also have Joy Wayman with the State Property Office. They have been a partner with us through this whole thing and have assisted us at every turn as we needed to tweak things to perfect this vision. So I want to thank them as well. At this point, we're ready to move forward. We're ready to make this shared vision reality. We will take any questions if you have them, but if not, I don't intend to occupy any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Killen. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Anyone at all? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to our council members for questions or comments.
Mayor, I had a couple more comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I could-
Please, go right
before I
ahead.
throw it to you. Looking at the future of the project, I just wanted to give you a couple next steps after a decision tonight. This will allow Columbia Development to purchase the property, at which time the zoning will actually go into effect, if you remember that nuance to the zoning approval. They plan to start grading the site and seek development approval during next year, so a lot of grading will happen in the next calendar year, and then work towards building construction and ultimately openings in 2020 and 2021 timeframe. And staff recommends that you approve the development agreement, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Overton. Back to council. Questions or comments? If not, we'll get to the motion, but before we do get to the motion, this is a little bit different. Requires 2/3 majority or 5 of us to vote affirmative for this to pass. So just letting you know. Do I have a motion? Don't be shy.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
I'm eating. I move to approve the resolution as attached to the staff report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.